Now, Chad, you speak all over the country, and you're meeting with corporate executives and entrepreneurs. Like, what is a kind of a dominant theme that you feel like you picked up in the SEALs that applies to business or even real estate investing?
I think dealing with adversity, because nobody's immune to it, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I mean, if you've made it this far in life, you've definitely already faced some adversity. And the thing is that we have to come to grips with is that there's going to be more. Like nobody's immune to it. And so it's like a bad weather system that you have no control over. It like you're going to get hit with the next hurricane, the next tornado, like things are going to come along and they're really going to tear you up. And you can't control that. And I don't say that to be a downer. It's more I'm saying that, so that you have prior preparation. Like we understand that there's going to be a storm coming and we can't keep it from coming. And we don't get a custom pick. Like, what is it going to look like? Is it going to be the tornado or the hurricane or the tsunami? You can't control that, but we still have control over something. And the thing that we have control over still is the way that we respond. Ultimately, we are the determiner of whether or not that adversity that we face will be what we could call a wing or a weight. Will you allow it to be a weight that just sinks you, leaves you knocked down, never to get back up again? People see what he or she got hit with and they go, wow, okay, they're out for the count. They're never resurfacing from that one. Or do you find a wing in the moment somehow, which is really just a way to rise to the occasion? This is what we call it in the SEAL teams, forged by adversity. And so that adversity will either be a weight that just sinks you, leaves you knocked down, you fail because of it, or you will be forged by it. And so often, people that persevere and do great things, often adversity was the shaping process. It was the forging process that made them into, who they are. And so I just try and communicate to people that you immediately need to be looking for that wing. Are you going to allow it to be a weight, or are you going to look for the wing? You got to find the wing in the moment, somehow. And adversity comes in a lot of different forms. This is whole life stuff. This isn't just in the business world, but you and we're all going to get that conversation or that phone call where the family gets hit with bad news, and they're going to look to you as dad or mom. They're going to look to you as the leader. Hey, how do we respond, in this moment? And if you're running around like a chicken with its head cut off, you're just a liability, to everybody else. You're a liability to your family. So this is whole life stuff. You got to find the wing in the moment somehow. And it's case by case basis. Just kind of give an example. My mentor, who I just mentioned, Scott Helvinston, Navy SEAL, he was tragically murdered in an ambush in Fallujah, Iraq. And I found out about it by turning on the television. And I'm seeing actual footage of the vehicle that he was in engulfed in flames. I'm watching footage of him getting dragged lifelessly through the streets of Fallujah behind a car with rope wrapped around his legs. I'm watching him, get set on fire as they're hanging him upside down from the Euphrates River Bridge. And they're just gleefully chanting in Arabic, Fallujah is the graveyard of Americans, as they stare into this camera. And so that was definitely not part of the plan in life. I was just on a phone call with him as he's reminding me of the timeline, how he's about to get back in a couple months and I'm about to start SEAL training really soon. And he's telling me how he's going to be back in time to see me go through it. But one of the things he said on the phone was, Junior, I know you're going to make it through SEAL training. And so to hear that from my mentor, some guy that, he's like a second father to me, like that gave me so much confidence hearing that from him. But then after losing him and then seeing all these things happen, and then being presented with like, hey, are you just not going to go through with this now? I had my family begging me not to go in. Like, don't go through with this. Don't try and be a SEAL. Look what happened to Scott. If this happened to him, it could happen to you. They're saying, look, if you haven't actually gone to boot camp yet, you're not officially signed up, just pull the plug. Like, don't go forward with this. And
You had
so
the
I was
choice
very,
at that moment to let it be a wing or a weight, right? That was a pivot
exactly,
moment for you.
very disoriented, not sure what to do. And I found the wing in that moment, in that conversation, in those words, Junior, I know you're going to make it through SEAL training. And so that was the forging, that was the wing. And that's what I'm saying is that it's case by case basis. Look for it though. Look for the wing in that moment. Look how you are going to be shaped and chiseled by this. And so often that chiseling process is very uncomfortable, right? The hammer's out and the chisel and chunks are coming off and it hurts, but there is a design. There is something being sculpted here.
The other thing also is talking about adversity. when you're going through Navy SEAL training, which was of course insane as I'm reading this thing, when you're doing deals, for example, at one point after you get your education and the enthusiasm wears off, you're really doing one of two things all the time. You're looking for deals and you're meeting with investors. It's kind of a little boring after a while, and a lot of people, they give up because it's mundane. It doesn't seem to be making a lot of progress. Maybe they even had a setback. And, compared to the Navy SEAL training that you're doing it day after day, and you don't know how many miles you have to go. You don't know how long you're going to be in the water. Like, you don't know when there's an end in sight, yet somehow you endure through it somehow. How do you, and obviously, I don't know, you can tell what the odds are of people quitting. You had that bell that they had to ring, right? And it would ring every single day. You had people that are, huge, would never quit, all of a sudden quit. And I'm wondering how you were able to stay the course. And as an advice for someone, hey, it's month 3, month 4, month 5. I'm talking to brokers. I'm talking to investors. I don't seem to be making much progress. How do you keep moving forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that all really comes down to like motivation, right? Like what are you getting up for in the morning? Like, what is this all for? And if you don't have a really good why, yeah, you're going to be in trouble. And so that's what you see on a regular basis in SEAL training is, you guys are all suffering together. And suddenly there's guys that just kind of break from the group and they go and they ring a bell 3 times in front of everybody, which signifies that, they quit. It's called ringing out. And you all remember when that person quit because their helmet comes off with their name on it, their rank, the class number, and it gets laid down on this asphalt section called the grinder where we do a lot of morning workouts, and it stays there. And so when we do our workouts, it's almost like a constant reminder, a graveyard of all the guys that quit in chronological order when they quit. And out of 173 guys in my class, there's only 13 of that original class number still standing there. So there's a big row of helmets that were set up. And I would suggest that, those guys couldn't continue on, with the mundane. They couldn't continue on with, all these failed expectations because the instructors are constantly tricking you. You might finish up an 8-mile run and you think that's the end and you're finally like just kind of letting your hair down, and then they trick you and say that's the halfway mark. We're doing this more. And so you're constantly getting just bad situations thrown at you. But it all comes down to what I would call, what is it that you write on the inside of your hat? And so when we're about to enter into Hell Week, which is the most difficult part of SEAL training, it's 5.5 days long. You get 4 hours of sleep. That's not 4 hours per night. That's a grand total 4 hours for the next 5.5 days. You wind up running over 200 miles during this time. You're getting surf tortured. There's not a dry moment. I went through in February where the water temperature is the absolute coldest. It literally takes your breath away. We call it jackhammering cold because you look like you're hanging on to a jackhammer as you just get immersed in this water, and you have to stay there until the instructors tell you can get out. And so guys are getting hypothermic. You feel like you're going to die. And what you learn if you stay there is that the human body can take a whole lot more suffering than you ever imagined before you get the peace of just no more sensation and dying. All right. So you could suffer a lot. But one of the things the instructors did allow us to do, and they suggested for us to do before we started Hell Week, is they gave us these white felt markers. And on these markers, what they wanted us to do is write on the inside of our hat. And we're supposed to write the things that are going to get us to dig deep when the going gets tough, when you don't feel like doing it anymore, when you are no longer into it. How are you going to reach beyond yourself and continue going? And so an interesting thing is that, none of the guys that ever made it, because we're all looking at what did you write on the inside of your hat, man? We're looking for inspiration. None of the guys that ever made it wrote their own name. And that is so important because we are living in a day and age where it seems like it's almost encouraged to like look out for yourself. I'm looking out for number one. We're living in, the selfie generation where you ask people, why is it that you're trying to achieve this goal? Why is it that you're going after this accomplishment? And they'll tell you something along the lines of like, I'm working on my brand, or I'm looking out for me, or I'm loving myself. I hate to hear that because I know in the end, that's not going to be enough. That's not going to get you to dig deep when the going gets tough. So here's the common theme that I saw on the inside of people's hats that did make it through SEAL training. It was 3 things, 3 categories: faith, family, and friends. And as I look back, those are the things that I had on the inside of my hat. And I still have the hat, to this day. And the funny thing is I had my girlfriend's name on the inside of the hat. So it's a little weird to break out in front of my wife. I'm just kidding. I married the girl, so I get to keep that hat. But I still have the hat to this day. You know, faith obviously is so important. I'm a man of faith. Family. Think about this. How far are you willing to go for yourself? I guess at a certain point, you might say, when you're exhausted, I've tasted enough. I've searched long enough. I've done enough of the mundane. I've stayed up, late enough, working. I'm over it. I'm ready to call it in. I'm done burning the midnight oil. You only go so far for yourself before you might throw in the towel. How far are you really willing to go when it's for your family? How, like, you will go until the wheels fall off. And so I had family on the inside of my hat, huge. So when the suffering really got up to a certain level where it was difficult, I wasn't thinking about myself. I was thinking about, I will never have that phone conversation with my family, telling them on the phone when they shouldn't be hearing from me because I should be in training. Hey, I quit. Your son's a quitter. No, no, no. I would literally have to die before I had that conversation. You'd have to kill me before I have that conversation. And so these are the types of things that you have to almost like put at the forefront of your mind in terms of like, why am I burning the midnight oil? Why am I suffering through this? Why am I doing all this mundane? It's not for yourself. It's probably not for the money. Hopefully not. Those aren't reasons on the inside of the hat that are really going to get you to dig deep. It's the bigger things. It's the things that you will ultimately regret one day on your deathbed if you don't focus on these things enough. You'll never regret not making enough money, right? The things I've done the visits at homes where people are passing away, and the things that they regret is not so much the things that they did do, it's the things they didn't do. It's they wish they would have spent more time working on their faith. They wish they would have spent more time with their family and with their friends. And so those are the important things. It might not necessarily be the thing for everyone. It's a suggestion out there, but at the end of the day, you have to have it determined in your mind, like, what is it that you would write on the inside of your hat? That's going to be the thing that really gets you to dig deep when the going gets tough. And I had my friend, Scott Helvenston, his name on the inside of my hat. Those are the things that really matter right there.